Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello and welcome to the Dork Forest. It's Jackie Cation and it's May. I will tell you that May, I'm all over the place. I am in Boston doing the Women in Comedy Festival the weekend of the 8th, May 8th. I am working all over Los Angeles doing various headlining sets for Andrei Belikov, who I don't know very well, but has booked me in things like Goleta, so you can check my schedule on my website. I'm in Scottsdale at Stand Up Scottsdale the weekend of the 23rd and 24th, and I'm in Tacoma, Washington, outside Seattle in its own city called Tacoma, Washington, the last weekend of May. And then the first weekend of June, I'm doing AnimeCon again, A-Con in Dallas. Live Dork Forests, stand-up comedy. That's right. JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. Those are the websites. Mike Rickberg just sang that song he composed with his girlfriend, Sarah Cohen, and he will sing the Mexican Hat Dance at the end of the show. Patrick Brady will fix this audio. And then Vilmos just updated my website, JackieCation.com, with some new headshots and stuff for people, and a really great picture of me and Tiberius that the headshot guy took. Also on my website, there's plenty of merch. Dork Forest t-shirts, the new CD, the new DVD. This will make an excellent Horcrux. So go for it. There's also a link on there to the $5 download of the DVD show if you just want to download it and watch it that way. The DVD has one bonus track, and that's exciting. You could also just donate. Donate to the show if you are enjoying the Dork Forest. $8.33 a month is $100 a year, which is what I was hoping from each and every Ranger. $100 a year. $8.33 a month. I haven't made it easy. You're going to have to remember to do it. $8 in there. But there's a donation button on dorkforest.com, tdf.libsyn.com, and JackieCation.com. Turns out there's donation buttons around. This month's episode is sponsored by my sister, and there is an ad. She's a helper Magoo. She's a financial advisor with RBC Dane Rauscher, and she's a good egg. So if you are looking for financial advice, I would recommend that you get in touch with my sister, Darla Cation, and you can hear her ad now. Thanks a lot for tuning in. At RBC Wealth Management, social responsibility starts at the top. As a part of the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC has been recognized among the world's financial, social, and environmental corporate leaders. Our sense of responsibility extends to our reputation for putting clients' interests first. My personal commitment is to help you achieve your financial goals by also considering sustainable and responsible investing strategies. To learn more, visit www.darlacashin.com. RBC Wealth Management, a division of RBC Capital Markets, LLC. Member NYSE, FINRA, SIPC. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I am in my living room. Very exciting. Myq Kaplan has chosen the green, the Dork Forest. You could be a proud owner of it by either being on the show, like Myq Kaplan is about to be on.
Stealing it from Myq Kaplan.
You could push him down if you've always wanted the medium green, American-made, the Dork Forest T-shirt.
I'll be wearing it at times. You can get the shirt off my back. I'm a nice guy for people who mug me.
Right, exactly. But why don't I introduce you?
Fair enough. Apologies.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We're back. We're back in my living room, and I'm with Myq Kaplan, friend and great comic. How you doing, sir?
Great. That's very nice of you to say and have me, and you are also those things to me.
That is exciting. I think I just saw your new animated.
Thank you.
We did it animated with Greg Franklin. We both did.
Yes.
And then after that, you have continued to have things animated.
I found another guy. There's another guy.
There's other people who do it.
Loved Greg Franklin's. I almost said Granklin. I love Granklin's work. I don't have a lot of time. I gotta
He's
speed
like
through
Banksy.
this. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that Banksy's real name is Brian Anksy.
I think you're now everyone here knows.
Now everyone, the huge reveal of Banksy's name.
That's amazing. So you are the secret gatekeeper of.
I don't think a lot of people know this. We went to high school together, me and Banksy. And he told me one night when we were having shawarma and just hanging out, little gyro, some shawarma. Yeah. So yeah, Greg Franklin, and then you just kept going, and I like the new bit because it's off of your new album too, right?
It is actually, it's from, as of now, the newest album that came out last year.
Oh, okay.
But
Your last album.
Yes, my Meet Robot on Comedy Central Records came out in 2013. 2014, May, as of after May, then it'll be out then forever. Yeah, then it definitely. And then comes July. Guys, it's, I'm sort of, my dork out situation is,
calendars. And time.
Exactly. I do like time a lot. I'm a big, I'll say the name of the thing and then I'll get into time. I'm really like time. Small, Dork, and Handsome is the name of my new special.
Adorkable. The fact that it's called Small, Dork, and Handsome.
I appreciate it.
And so you did an album just a year ago, and now you're doing another album. Hello, Captain Prolific.
I'm doing what I mean, it's, how it is. You write things and then you kind of finish them and you're like, I guess that's done. And then you get excited about saying other things. And you're like, here are these things. And eventually I don't want to forget those things. So.
Right. So someone should record them and put them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course you write the new tag a week afterwards and you're like, well,
there's a
come
moment,
and see me live.
There's a moment in Small, Dork, and Handsome where I say, I talk about a man with the penis of a horse. And I say man, horse penis, probably. And then literally, after the recording, I'm like, centaur penis. I didn't have it. And now that's not.
Right. It had to be revealed.
Exactly.
It had to be, afterwards revealed.
It would be a bonus feature on the DVD if physical DVDs were still a thing that,
I published mine.
You have physical copies.
Physical, all region. Because I went to Hong Kong and I was like,
wow.
Those guys don't have Region 1 DVD players. And there is a bonus thing, but my bonus thing is essentially me choking the first night that we recorded.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's just
the whole thing.
No, just a 2-minute me looking at the audience, going, "Well, I've forgotten what the next joke is." We got a couple of choices here.
It's nice to let people know that happens.
I've moved the curtain. And then I went into the back, and then I looked at my notebook, and then I came back out on stage, and I was like, "Yep, this is what the next bit is." And they all thought it was part of the plan, and it was not. And then as I kept going, they were like, "Oh no, she really didn't know what the next thing." Okay, all right.
So this will certainly pay off in some larger fashion. Where no, it
it does not.
Insight into the character of a comedian, which the positive character. It's look, if you make a mistake, you can make life is imperfect.
Right. Everybody has jobs where they tend to drop the ball occasionally, and then they regroup. They regroup and start again. Which is what comedy is as well.
The problem with politics is you make one mistake and then, or just change your mind about a reasonable thing, and then everybody's like, hey, he said one thing once and now he's saying another thing. And he didn't.
He's a flip-flopper.
Didn't know about the future, so we didn't hire a psychic for the job.
Right. We thought we were going to hire a psychic to be the senator, and it turns out that is not happening.
Yeah, he did. He promised that he would know the future. So
by the way, did you happen to hear Obama's set at
Not yet. I have it. I'm in my queue.
It's in your queue. I'm going to buy his new album where he works on his Orange is the New Black chunk. And
yes, we orange. That doesn't. I just wanted to say something fast. Is all.
Right. Well, you came in. You were the one who came up with Daniel Dad Lewis.
Oh yeah.
Of the great books that I read 5 in a row, and then you ever get to a saturation point with an author where you're like, even I know what's going to happen next. I could write the next one. So
wow.
I got to take a minute.
You should. I mean, that's what happens with people every once in a while. Is James Patterson, very prolific author. Now he's just like James Patterson, and has 4 or 5 different people that
that just can write in his voice.
Or I think he must plot it, and then he's like, and now run with it, And so then he probably puts out 4 books a year. I bet.
Holy smokes!
That's my guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do like time.
Let's dork out about time a little bit.
When I remember watching a Batman animated series,
I just started watching that actually
ago. Yeah,
someone just lent it to me.
It was
it
great.
Holds up.
And there was one with I think the bad guy's name was Tempest Fugit.
Mm-hmm.
And he could put things, he could stop time in localized places. So it'd be oh, Gotham now doesn't have time moving, but everywhere else did. So that doesn't always.
Oh, right. That is weird.
That's the power that if, there's a lot of powers. I would take any useful power that didn't have any downside, only the blessing, not the curse.
Right. Would it be what would be, I can't imagine a time travel kind of thing. There has to be some cost to that, right?
Certainly. I mean, I've read The Time Traveler's Wife, so that
right.
that could happen.
That was mediocre.
If you have no
wasn't
control.
It? Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see the movie. Did you read the book?
Yeah,
okay.
I accidentally read the book.
Understood. I thought I didn't have a problem reading the book.
Well, my problem only lies in the fact that the implication was that it was a romance novel, and it was a unique romance novel where there was time travel.
Oh, sure.
And let me tell you something. There are buildings full of crap that has been written, better written, worse written, many worse written. I mean, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that they made it sound unique made me angry at it before I began.
Oh,
which isn't fair.
If only the marketing campaign had been, because that's not the author's fault. The author isn't like, guys, get a load of this. Have you heard of time? No? Perfect.
I invented this genre. It turns out she knew she didn't.
Innovation. Now somebody's like, oh man, I've never seen this before. All I see is things that I've written. Marketing, what have yous. But I do like the idea of the power to stop or slow down time.
Okay.
You could use that for so many things. You could use it to appear to teleport. You could be like, stop, and then just walk somewhere else.
Oh, right.
Somebody's about to punch you, then you duck out of the way. Do it slow-mo. You could run fast, get a bunch of, endorsements for sneakers and be like, well, it's not the sneakers. I'm using my power to slow down time, but you can pretend to do that if you get these sneakers.
Right. It was, so you like the idea of time travel.
Yes.
What else how do you feel about the aging process? Like, cause that's what we're all doing.
Oh,
right?
yeah. It's pretty terrifying at times.
Right.
But I like when I look in the mirror, I think a couple years ago, 2011,
right.
I was on Letterman for the first time,
right.
And I had a certain haircut where it was longer than my hair is now, sort of parted, and then had sort of bangs that swooped in front of my face, and I'd had that haircut at times, but I hadn't looked at it. I saw myself on TV, and my hair I feel like my forehead was much higher on one side, at least the side that wasn't covered.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's not the way I thought I looked.
Right.
And so then I cut the hair shorter so that it got rid of that appearance. But now every once in a while I'm like, oh, is my head getting bigger? Is my hair getting smaller? I know it's getting gray, and I like my dad's hair is completely white.
Okay. White is cool.
Yeah, very nice. I like people often have complimented the graying sides. It's a cool thing. It's a cool thing that happens. I mean, I know I'm a man. If I go bald, if I get fat, as long as I'm, it doesn't matter. Society, I win. But
right, because you have certain advantages as a fella, but it is still scary, and more now they're giving men a hard time for aging. Oh yeah, as well. So
yeah, everyone should have a hard. I mean, to be fair. But I mean, I think we all look in the mirror, see that we're aging. We're like, oh, that's heading towards death.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I'm going to not be a thing eventually.
Right, we'll call it, but that's fine because the aging thing. I never really thought of it until recently, where I was like, oh, I am going to be 50, and then that seems to be something people. There's a lot of greeting cards that address, and if by the way, anybody out there ever hears me say I'm a young 50, feel free to smother me in my sleep, because it seems painful. But yeah, because we're all in love with youth. And so, but
50 is the new black.
50 is the new black, because black people are cool. What?
Oh,
and so what about time travel? Would you time travel if you could? Would you go back in time?
I mean,
would you go in the future?
I would certainly. I mean, the what kind of time travel is it? Is it the kind that we can change things? We don't know. Nothing.
Oh,
because I have some jokes about it where I think the way that it makes sense to work, like the jokes I have are about how Back to the Future doesn't really make sense, because if you went back and made your parents not meet, then that would be like an immediate paradox. It wouldn't be like, oh, it'll be a few minutes until
everything catches up.
Time to not screw that up, or like the all new X-Men thing that's going on like that. I like Brian Bendis and his writings, and so I like what he's doing. And maybe I feel like just alternate timelines are being created.
Right.
That's what would happen. Like if you go and kill Hitler, maybe you could kill Hitler, but then there's still like all the timelines where Hitler didn't get killed.
Right.
It's just sort of branches
parallel,
off. Alternate dimensions. Sliders,
Yeah, more slidery than that's how you think time works?
I think either that, or it is actually, I mean, it's probably impossible to actually do it, but if it was possible to do it, then it would either mean you couldn't change anything, so you couldn't get to do important things.
Oh, right.
Or, so you're just there the whole time.
Right.
You're just like, Hitler, gun jamming,
Right. Did you ever read that 1963 book by Stephen King?
I did not. not.
And because Dana Gould suggested it, it looms. It's very big, and it looms over my bed as I stare at it and go, "This is not going to be okay for traveling," because it's 1,100 pages and it's like this thick.
Have you heard about? I feel like there's a new thing. It's like some sort of devices that they can have like so much information within them, but they're actually smaller. Like that's just the size of a tiny like an e-reader.
Does it start with a K? Is it a Kindle?
Yeah, it starts with a kind, ends with an O.
It's true. I do like the paper.
I also
like
do
the paper, but I do have. I have a Kindle. I mean, I have the Kindle app anyway, and so yes, I have books on the Kindle for an emergency.
Of course,
right? Just in case I don't have another book, I can go and reread the awesome books that I have on my Kindle, which are all rereads. They're all rereads. The Silmarillion.
Interesting.
Yeah, because then I've already. Because then I don't have to. I don't know why. It's easier.
I went on some dates with and I'm friends with a person who worked for
Amazon?
Nook.
Oh, Nook.
So I got to borrow a Nook for a while and experience that. I like. You know what I like about reading comic books on a Nook or like graphic novels is here's the thing. This is a very minor inconvenience to the comic book reading experience. So you turn the page and then peripherally you can't help but see some occurrence on the following, but you haven't read a page and a half.
Right, you might see a panel.
Yeah, you see a panel, and you're like, now I know what happened. It's one page is spoiled for me.
Right.
But on the Nook, and I assume on the Kindle as well, you can set it on like panel view so that it goes literally panel by panel, and then when you finish a page, you see the whole page in total.
Oh, okay.
So that you can literally, this can't happen. You will never see 2 pages ahead.
Okay.
Because you get to see like the panel real big, and so you can see more detail, and it goes in the exact, when there's a complicated set where you're like, what, who said that? He says that, and then who says what? And then it's like traveling like a maze.
Yeah.
And whoever's in charge, like.
Sometimes it plays across the top of 2 pages.
Oh, yeah. I feel the dumbest, like when I read a whole half a page. Yeah. And then I get to the top, and then somebody's like, who already left the room is answering a question. Again. And I was like, oh no. I just assume I'm stupid because I didn't exactly understand what was going on. And I am stupid, but for a different reason.
Right. Well, we all have our challenges. But here's the weird thing. Okay, so did Brian Michael Bendis write Days of Future Past?
The movie?
Yeah.
I don't know if he did. I assume he's involved in the helping.
He is a helper. I like Powers. Yeah. And I like Torso, and I liked many things that he has written.
Yeah.
His comic books they drive me up a banana tree. He's writing Guardians of the Galaxy right now.
He is, yes.
And I want to smother him in his sleep because it's never about the last arc he wrote. It was essentially about the X-Men.
Oh,
the Guardians of the Galaxy were peripheral. And you're like, no. Please read an X. I mean, he does. He writes X-Men.
Yeah,
he's got plenty of X-Men going on. Doesn't need to encroach his peanut butter into my chocolate of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's going to be fine.
This is what I notice about you. You like to be told up front what something's gonna be. Time Traveler's Wife, if somebody said, hey, here's a story, it's been done before, maybe done better, maybe done worse, this is done pretty well, I know exactly what it's gonna be, I'm gonna enjoy it. Hey, here's a story involving the Guardians of the Galaxy, maybe a little X-Men heavy, call it X-Men featuring Guardians of the Galaxy.
How about that?
I'll love it. I
might love it.
Right on board.
Right, but because Andy pulled from the long boxes the original Days of Future Past from the 90s.
Sure.
Chris Claremont, I guess, the writer of that little tome.
I remember him.
I never read comics in the 90s. I started reading probably 2003, 2004.
Interesting.
I know. I've come late. I don't always get things.
That's fine.
Andy always has to go into the long boxes, and he loves to do it.
Yeah.
He's like, allow me to offer you this stack of...
What a major, coup that is for... you didn't know that this would be when you got together before 2003, you and he?
No.
After?
Yeah.
Okay. So 2003, you start reading comics. You meet this man. He has comics going back decades now.
Right.
And now just you not only marry him, you marry this whole collection of comic books.
Actually, you are correct. We met, and then he introduced me to comic books. I had read them when I was in junior high. I used to read Spider-Man.
Okay.
And the team-ups. Those were the only fun ones.
Those are so much. One of the very first comics I ever remember buying was for this exact reason, was Secret Wars. The very first #1 Secret Wars cover, just like every superhero.
Yeah.
Like X-Men, Avengers, Spider-Man, Hulk. Fantastic Four. I was just like, this must be the best. Why isn't every comic this comic? Like, it's everybody. Why doesn't everybody do this?
Right.
And then sometimes you have Marvel team up where it's like two characters, like Howard the Duck and the Thing. Like, who cares?
How did they meet?
Two of them.
Yeah.
Are they going to fight?
Is it going to be awesome? And yeah, but Days of Future Past, he was like, every X-Men movie has been taken from a Chris Claremont story, he said, is what I did not know. And, so he said, in Days of Future Past, it's only 2 issues.
Huh.
The entire thing he created, and the repercussions of those 2 issues are still all over the X-Men universe, which is what Bendis wants. Bendis wants to make that kind of footprint in comics.
He's doing it.
He constantly is killing people and then resurrecting people, and he's like, how about this one? And then he creates the Sentry, and then he tries to retcon the guy back into the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, but...
Alias, I like a lot.
Oh, yeah. And, but he, so I tried to read the Chris Claremont, the 2. They're almost unreadable for me just because of the way they're laid out.
I never really enjoyed Claremont stuff very much. Like, I like to talk about what I do like. So
yes.
I'm going to name everybody else, and I won't name Claremont. But I still bought all the X-Men. I started in like the 90s.
Okay.
Buying comic books. The only comic that I've read, I buy every single issue.
Yeah.
From the early 90s still to this day is Savage Dragon by Eric Larson.
Eric Larson. I know that name.
Eric with a K, Larson with an E. And
don't know that
he
name.
would always follow Todd McFarlane. Like when Todd McFarlane did Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man, he left and Eric Larson would come on and be
and
the
write
artist.
the next.
And then when he went to Spider-Man, same thing happened, like with many different things. And then when Image started, they both went over, and Todd was doing Spawn, and then Eric Larson was doing the Savage Dragon, and he's done, it's from 20 years worth, almost.
I've never read Savage Dragon.
I love it's just so much. It's like an action, like weird. It's just a really fun, straight ahead, just very superhero-y.
Just action-y kind of. Do you read Invincible?
I do read Invincible, yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun like that, I would say.
Okay.
It's
and is there a dragon?
There's a man with green skin and strength and a fin.
Right.
And for years and years, you don't know how he got that way or why. And Eric was like, I'm not going to tell anybody. It doesn't matter. His origin's not important. He's just found burning in a field with amnesia. And they're like, you're very strong. Will you become a police officer? He's like, all right. So he's a police officer. And then he goes through many phases. And this is a character that Eric had written as a child. Like, so as a child, for sometimes he would be like the Hulk, like a man who turned into this big green thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes he would be a man with just a big green fin mask. So,
right.
And then throughout the years, he had storylines where those things would happen. Like the dragon's soul went into an actual human, or, he died and then, or his son, or all these. And so it's great when, the great thing about obviously creator owned stuff, like as opposed to, Bendis does great things with, the actual characters that you're not allowed to really
do a lot with.
Which is strange. Like right now, Cyclops is a weird dickhead, and you wouldn't have thought that would have. Oh, he was a good guy.
You'd think he'd always be a good guy.
But with
he's a jackass.
Savage Dragon, like there's like sometimes people are like, oh, you're responsible for destroying the world. We're gonna put you in jail. Like I'm actually not totally caught up right now, but he might be. I think he was on death row last I saw. So. That is creator owned because you can do whatever you want with it, and it's one of my favorite things about it's like stand up because then you can write whatever kind of stand up you want to write. Oh yeah, it's so strange like that. The only times like when comedians people always ask questions like, oh, isn't it? What about like the apology culture of today, where you say a thing and then people get mad at you and then you have to apologize, which is only really the case if you. Like, number one, are famous enough and or, like, are beholden to some other masters, right? Like, Tracy Morgan says a thing and, like, the people at NBC are like, oh, no, we can't have that.
You have to apologize.
Yeah, we pay you a lot of money, so, if you want that money. But, if we could say anything we wanted to and nobody's gonna...
Right now, someone is saying something horrifying and nobody knows anything about it. Except for the 200 people that are watching it.
And it used to be that way for famous people, too.
But, no longer.
Yeah, now, that's the price of fame is...
Exactly. The price of technology, Michael Richards.
Might know what you say sometimes.
Exactly. It's I was just on Doug Loves Movies, and I didn't remember I was being audio taped. And I do it as a joke one-on-one, and it's usually with a barista or a wait staff. But when I order a cup of coffee, I will say, I would like a cup of coffee. And if they're going to dress it, I always go, the color of Halle Berry. Which she is very beautiful. And she has the perfect caramel skin tone of a beautiful cup of coffee. So I am a jackass. And yet it is funny. And yet people know exactly what the fuck I want. So it's a win. It might be funny. It might get me what I want. And don't hate me.
Yeah, people have different different skin colors.
Right. I don't think I'm making that is not. She's not a surprise to her.
Hey, I'll have a cup of coffee the color of Halle Berry, who I hate. Halle Berry, who is the best of the people that I hate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, it is never. There is never any hate.
And what name shall I put on this cup? Just put hateful. Just put,
right. Just put asshat.
Cup of hate, please. Yeah.
Like a cup of hate.
Ass hate.
Yeah. Ass hate. So the other thing you really enjoy are words.
Sure. I definitely. It's funny because people. Not that I'm trying to get away from it because I can't get away from it.
Because you speak.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. When people talk about my comedy, it's number one, it's very difficult to assess yourself. People see you differently than you see yourself.
Oh, completely.
Alan Watts, that thinker, the Eastern thought guy.
Yeah.
Buddhism and such. He said something once like about categorizing yourself is as difficult as trying to bite one's own teeth.
Oh, that makes...
Other people could bite your teeth way better than you can because you have to use your teeth to bite your teeth,
right.
And so I definitely understand that, especially in like when I see it, what I do reflected in other people, like it's really fun. Like sometimes I'll be on a podcast or I'll have somebody on my podcast or I'll just be hanging out and like friends of mine whose comedy is maybe very different, not as much full of wordplay necessarily,
right?
Will find themselves influenced by the sphere of they're like, oh yeah, I could do that too.
Let's play that game.
It's a fun thing, like at least, or maybe it's things that they would think but wouldn't say, but like, oh, now I know Mike's here and he'll enjoy it.
Yes.
And I mean, the dark side of it is that now people just think because I agree that I understand there's a puns are bad mentality out there. And the reason I think that is because many puns are bad. Like, probably the majority of most things are bad. If you just have a bunch of people and you're like, monkeys, make some puns. Punky, that's a bad one, right? That's not, if a million punkies were sitting at, a million punky Brewsters were making coffee, that's what I call my barista, Punky Brewster.
Right. Well, I mean, everybody, it's any game, you're going to get better at the game the longer you play.
Oh yeah.
And there are dad jokes and there are people who are really good at words and wordplay. But yeah, have you always been into it, or did you have a parent or a parent-like figure that was into?
I don't think my parents, I think maybe my grandfather was. He died when I was 10, but I remember him as a child one time. I think he shaved his beard off and had just a mustache and then said, "I mustache" around the room and then ran. And,
which is absurd. And yet, Grandpa, you make me laugh.
Yeah. I don't remember. I assume I knew it was a joke, but I wasn't like, aha, that's what I must do. You know?
Right.
Like a bat flying into Bruce Wayne's house and be like, I will become that grandpa.
Right.
But when I was 10 or 12, a couple of years later, the very first joke I ever remember making, like actively, was I was in 8th grade, 7th grade, and in math class, and I, for whatever reason, we were sort of in a free time period, and I had graph paper and was sort of making like some kind of, with ruler and pencil, some sort of design, like a fractal kind of thing.
Okay.
By, matching up, lines and squares, and it looked kind of cool, and like people were sort of gathering around me, and they were like, oh, neat, that's neat. And then this one kid, Jesse, was like, but there's no point. And I stood up and I was like, you're right, I need to sharpen this. And I went to the pencil sharpener. And I feel like my teacher was like, I don't know if anybody, I think some people laughed, and I think the teacher was like really impressed with, I guess, the speed at which it happened. And I'm not saying it's the best thing I've ever done.
No.
But
the weird thing about those jokes, as I will often, because Andy Ashcraft enjoys a pun, a wordplay, a jokety joke. And he loves, there's some that, I always, sometimes I say, I've laughed against my will.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's very common.
Right. And especially if they are, it's a repetitive joke, like the outstanding in your field thing, like my dad used to do. It was like every time.
Yes. And that's the thing that the reason why people don't like puns is because sometimes they've heard them too many times, and so it's just not new. It's being, again, like it's being presented as new. It's being like, hey, what do you think about this thing that I just came up with? And like, I've heard that already. People have already come up with it. You're presenting it to me in bad faith. You are not outstanding. You are down. Yeah.
Right, that cow is not outstanding in its field.
Yeah.
That's just a cow at every time.
And furthermore, like when you go to see comedy, some people some people love comedy for its brutal honesty, its truth telling, it's, eviscerating social norms. And not every comedian is like that, obviously.
Right.
Not every comedian is different. Brian Regan is different than Doug Stanhope is different than Maria Bamford is different than Sarah Silverman. And ideally, I always recommend people know who they're going to see. If it's a showcase, then just be open to anything. But if you're going to see a person, don't be like, well, I saw one stand-up. So let's be like, I saw one band.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like I was in Hong Kong and the audiences, they had a good time. I had a good time, but there was very much a sitting there going, is this what stand-up comedy?
Oh yeah, I get stand-up comedy. I guess I don't like. It'd be like like trying a food and be like, I guess I don't like food. You know?
Right? This isn't what I thought it would be.
But yeah. Especially if you go to see a comedian and you have an idea of what comedy is going to be, and then it's not that thing. Then the expectation is dashed in a way that you don't enjoy because you're like, oh, like if you start a sentence and someone's like, here's a thing that happened to me, and then it just ends with a punchline that's wordplay instead of a continuation of like, I got invested in that story. I thought there really was. An earthquake that at the Etch-a-Sketch Museum and all the paintings weren't ruined, like that old joke that I have.
And yet it is a great one. So because the thing is you do in your stand-up is that it's a mix of real situations.
I am mostly telling the truth.
Right.
And then I hope that people see along the way, I'm like, oh, this.
It's a caricature and then a twist, and that's the definition of comedy in many ways. There's a caricature and there's a twist, and that is what makes you laugh out loud.
And every once in a while, I mean, I definitely, like when I've gone through breakups or something, I find myself talking about them more, and then like jokes will pile on, and then they'll eventually, when sort of the wounds have healed and the jokes are still there, then I don't have that raw, Mark Maroney, marinade, that Mark Maronade.
The Mark Marinade, which is nice. He likes to open a vein, and then he's like, "I'm opening a vein. Would you like to?"
Which is wonderful. That's, the best kind of wordplay is when it isn't just when it has, many things, going like meaning to it as well as
right. Did you ever read that David Foster Wallace?
I've not read it.
Okay. Have you ever seen George Wallace?
Yes.
And what do you think about
George Wallace and Gromit is my favorite.
How about George Carlin? It's because so I've never I never read any of them. Hunter S. Thompson, David Foster Wallace.
There are too many. You can't read them all.
No, and sometimes they're a mess, and I am a fix-it kind of person where I'm just like, how is that guy? And they're like, well, they've killed themselves, Jackie. You are no longer fixable.
Can I help now? Can I help somebody else?
Somebody who really likes that guy. All right, well, that guy's great, but anyway.
Yeah. So when I go through these hard times, I'll find myself on stage, and actually maybe be getting laughs in the same way of that, that more emotionally, not that I'm guarded all the time, but just normally when I'm performing, I'm in a decent mood. I'm like, hey, this is fun.
Right.
We're having a great time, right? You're not, I am. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm at least having a good time. That's what I care about. And I remember one time, this is like the closest I'll get to I said this on stage. I was like, I think, an audience wasn't enjoying something, and I was like, what do you want? Who do you guys like? Do you you want Mark Maron? Fine, I was masturbating with a washcloth and I cut my penis. Is that it? Is that what I should do? And people enjoyed that.
Right, they enjoyed that. And currently I'm enjoying your ghost chunk.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And very nice.
It's fun to talk to people. I really I feel like I used to say more things that were overtly anti what people believed in. Not saying you guys are wrong about everything, but being trying to couch it at least the most extreme religious people are doing some wrong things, you know? Whereas I would say that. That's a thing that's true.
And it's not a bad place to start from if you're going to do a joke about religion. Because you're not talking about the norm. You're talking about extremism. So you're talking about extreme ghost lovers.
Oh, yeah.
And extreme, that's what I'm speaking of when I speak of extreme pet owners.
Exactly.
Because I love a dog. I genuinely do.
Yeah, nobody's, people are not most people aren't bothering anybody with what they do. I mean, in aggregate, perhaps, if they, you donate money to the church that then does the bad thing, ghosts probably, I can't see, unless you're going out of your way to, put on, Scooby-Doo style masks and, scare, be we have to get people all believing in ghosts and actually stabbing people and be like, oh, it must have been a ghost that, very few people are going that far.
Why isn't that
ghosts.
a new Scooby-Doo plot? That guy would be the best evil, because you know how the new Scooby-Doo, the ghosts are real?
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, because in the old Scooby-Doo, it was always some old
Person
guy,
with a mask.
right? Person with a mask.
I like the idea. I had this idea the other day that of a Scooby-Doo. This will just be probably a joke. I'm not going to. Maybe I know a guy who writes some Scooby-Doo movies.
All right, well, let's pass him on.
Marley, if you're listening.
That guy was on the Dork Forest.
Oh, great. Marley Halpern Grazer.
Grazer, yeah.
We met in Boston when we both started doing comedy there. He's
that guy.
An Emerson guy.
Oh, cool.
So I have an idea for, it'll be people, but then they pull their heads off and it's a monster.
Yeah, I didn't expect that coming. Well played. Well played. It would be.
So the idea that if somebody comes to see, comedian, like this happened to me I had 6 great shows at the Hartford Funny Bone.
Okay.
I said 3 great shows, 2 good shows, 1 fine show.
Okay.
They were all, I did the job of comedian every time.
Right. Everyone
enjoyed it immensely 3 times, enjoyed it great 2 times, and then was like, okay, that was the show. That's that show. It had its moments and everything was fine. I
think you just described stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. Because it's never not fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun, but sometimes it's just fine.
Yeah. And I mean, at this particular show, there had been one woman who had yelled out at each of the comedians.
Oh.
Like at one comedian had said that he was married, and then later said he went to a live sex show, and she was like, "What about your wife? Thought you had a wife." And he's like, I do. This is a joke. Be quiet. He said it meaner.
My God.
And then during me, I had a joke where I was like, I might get married again, but not just to one person. That sounds risky. Like you have only 2 people in a marriage with 3. And she's just like, good luck with that. I'm like, well, you seem like a lady who is happily married to a man who might not be happily married to you. And I was like, and I asked her questions and it didn't make any sense. Maybe she was drunk. And then at the end, I'm like, I'll check back with you later after I've more established that I know that I'm in control of the situation. And then by the end of the show, I was like, lady, can we talk again? And people were like, she's gone. I'm like, oh, that's good.
Oh, excellent.
I'm glad she left. But another lady hadn't left and came up to me after and said, you are the worst comedian that I've ever seen. I was like, oh, lady, you have the worst manners. This is a rude and mean thing to do. She's like, I'm allowed to tell you. I'm like, well, you're allowed to. But I was like, why did you come to the show? She's like, I didn't know what it was going to be. I'm like, well, let that be a lesson, I guess, to do some research about the shows you're going to.
Nice interaction. Well played.
And then her husband pulled her away and she was like, you suck. And I'm like, you suck. And then he was like, watch your mouth, buddy. And I'm like, you watch. I didn't say anything more to that.
Right. Well, because when someone does come up and say that they didn't enjoy the show, you want to say something like, exactly what you just said.
I'm sorry you made a mistake. I was here on purpose getting paid. You
right. My picture's on the thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's the best reaction.
I did what it was pretty calm. Yeah, I was glad at first I didn't
and you didn't lose your mind. You
no.
were just very.
Especially because, usually it's best case scenario. If somebody doesn't like you, they don't tell you. They just walk away.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like,
that's fine.
I won't do this again.
Right.
And I'm like, goodbye. And people are generally polite. Like, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not an affront to anybody's. Like, you can live your life. I'll live my life.
You haven't destroyed anyone's lives.
No. And so usually, I can't imagine somebody who's just like, oh man, I want a Doug Stanhope, Mark Maron, Louis C.K., Bill Burr. Like, I want one of the. And they come to see, like, Myq Kaplan must be. He does the same thing. He has the same job as them.
I thought that Carrot Top and that guy with the puppet were going to be here, and he's not.
And it's like if you went to go see a magician but didn't know it was a magician.
Right.
Right. Oh man, this guy's in a suit. Maybe he's going to sing some opera for us. Like, what's that rabbit doing?
Right. Or you go see it's like Joey Meatball or whoever the hell, like somebody who's really kind of just. Yeah, there's so many different kinds of comedy. You really just do a little research. The internet is there for us.
Especially now. Like, it used to be much more.
It was
difficult.
more of a crap shoot. Yeah. Maria's started opening up her set with, she said, I don't know if you guys all know what you're about to see. And then she tells a story about how she really has always liked Steven Spielberg, because she liked E.T. And then she went and saw War Horse, which is a snuff film about horses. And she's like, this is not what I wanted to see. And she's like, so if you think that that's what's happening, if I am your war horse, don't worry about it. She said, channel Martin Luther King or Gandhi. And she said, and rise to your feet and silently march. And I won't take it personal, and you'll get to continue to live your life.
Additionally, if people, if you want to hurt a comedian's feelings, like saying something will do that, but legitimately, like walking away quietly, I'm like, oh, that's a reasonable person who didn't enjoy this. That's even worse.
Right. I thought I was doing well. Not so much.
But yeah, so big fan of time travel. And
Right.
so words are, so yeah, I'm made of words. And
How about college? You went to Emerson?
I went to Brandeis for my undergrad, and
Okay.
then I got a master's in linguistics at Boston University.
Holy shit.
Because when I went to Brandeis, I noticed, I mean, I'd always liked grammar, like, as part of English. Like, if in English class, it was half reading things and then half, like, diagramming sentences.
Oh my God. I want to learn how to diagram sentences again.
Oh, I loved it, yeah.
It's really kind of fun where you're like, oh yeah, that's where that is.
Especially when you don't have to. Like, that's, people like learning, people don't like to be taught, you know.
Fair enough. Because I didn't, yeah.
So I don't know if I can do it right now for you, but I mean,
maybe after.
Basically, I mean, and it's also, the science has changed. I do have a master's, but they've probably done some more research since then. Everything I know might be theoretically false.
Right, because they're redoing everything now, right? They're teaching people how to, like, the math, you no longer carry the number, I guess?
Oh yeah, it is very strange. I'm glad that I don't have children for many reasons, and
because how could you help them with their homework if
Yeah.
you don't? You're like, well, I know how to do that, but I don't know how to teach to whatever how you're learning it.
There was somebody tweeted like a picture of a kid's answer to a thing that was like, tell me how you got the answer to this. I think I saw this on Colbert. It was so funny. The kid was like, the answer is like 2 + 3 is math in my head, and then putting it out through my pencil. You know, something like that. It's like, I thought about the numbers in my brain magic and then expelled it from my body.
Right. It shouldn't be that big of a, yeah. So a degree in linguistics. Now, does that mean that you had to study other languages, or was it all English?
I mostly, one of my first jokes was that I was in a linguistics program, and I only speak English, so I do a lot of English to English translation and give some examples of that.
I would like an example of that.
I think it was like, so if you're on the phone and somebody says, oh, I guess I'll let you go, that means I want to go. Or like, I think we should see other people as I want to see other people or already am, and I want you to die. Those sorts of things. But
cool.
yeah, I do not speak any other languages fluently currently.
Okay.
You did need some passable knowledge of a language as a requirement for the degree, but to study linguistics, there are people who are out there in the field, like linguistic sort of anthropologists, gathering data and then coming back and reporting on it, and so like, oh, now we know this is what happened. Somebody has to study other languages,
right?
But everybody doesn't. So some people can be like, hey, in Korean they have 2 B's, we only have 1 B, or like
weird.
Yeah, like so one is like voiced, or one is voiceless, or one is aspirated, and one is unaspirated.
Okay.
And in fact, we in English. The thing that we think of as, so there's an aspirated P, and then our B is actually an unaspirated P.
Okay.
For example, the word pit, that's a P, aspirated P. The word bit is an unaspirated P, not a B, because say the word spit and sort of cut off the S. Spit.
Bit. It's
spit.
bit.
It's bit.
Yeah.
So that's what a P is.
All right.
For real. It sounds like a B.
It sounds like a B, and aspirated means the pronunciation part of it. Is that correct?
Aspiration is like voice, like air coming. Like,
the air usage to create the word.
Yes.
Excellent.
Airspirated, you could think of it.
Airspirated. I will think of it.
Yeah. You spray it through the air. That's aspiration.
What's the name of your podcast again?
Hang Out With Me.
Hang Out With Me and Myq Kaplan, MYK.
Cute.
And Q and MQ. It's Q.
It's very difficult.
Y and then an M. Myq with a Q.
I legitimately am thinking about making it spelled regular again, if that's a thing that I can do.
Did you do it?
I did it.
You did it. Did you do it when you were 13?
Around then, yes.
Because that's when
I became a man.
That's when when you became a man.
Oh yeah.
You're like,
that's when that brain stuff started happening.
Yeah. I wanted to put a Q in mine, in Jackie, Jaqui, and my stepmother said to me, "You're not pulling any of that 13-year-old bullshit on me."
I might have been. I have to check. I know exactly when I did it because it was right after Prince changed his name to a symbol. That was my inspiration.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I know a Jackie. Do you know Jackie Furback, a comedian in New York?
I don't, but I think I've met her.
Jaqui is her name. And,
I would have went QUI personally.
I understand.
But,
I mean, it's not necessary. It's like, look, you guys would be different.
It would be just for fun.
It is.
That's why I wanted to do it.
And here's the thing: I've talked about this with Zach Sherwin, who previously went by the name MC Mr. Napkins.
Right?
Recently.
Is he done with MC Mr. Napkins?
He retired it in 2013, and got rid of a lucrative, not lucrative, but a very well endowed YouTube channel for Mr. Napkins and started a new one at Zach Sherwin, his regular name. He's like, put a video at the end of the old one saying, I'm done with that name, here's why, and then started new videos. And he's like, and that's what I want to do. That's who I am. This is what it's about. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that would be neat, fun, good for me. Like, I mostly don't care, like, because mostly it doesn't matter because sounds and, it's all like, oh, a marriage license just is, it's a piece of paper indicating that something means something. But, as long as we know the things, like, you could live with somebody without that and still agree to be with them for whatever amount of time, or you could rip up that paper and it doesn't mean anything.
Right, and then move on.
And so with the name spelling, I feel like the criticism I get sometimes is that it seems very like your your aunt,
stepmother.
It's very look at me, it's like people are like, oh, I see. You want people to pay attention to you. Is it? And I'm like, and it's funny because I feel like I'll get that kind of attitude from other comedians sometimes. Not as a direct affront, but we're all in the look at me business.
That's what the business is.
Yeah.
It turns out.
It's what are we showing? Us. That's, hey, don't look at me. It's a very strange comedian.
Essentially, it's another comedian going, God, I wish I had thought that. It's what it feels like. More
everybody's jealous. JELZ.
Exactly. Now I can imagine that you and Zach Sherwin would be get along a house of fire.
We are very good friends
because he is a wordy dude himself.
I feel like we are. Our brains do very similar things, but they are filtered and then realized, manifested differently. His through rap more frequently than mine. Right,
and he definitely what he's doing is it's comedy. And it's more an examination of like what comics do. It's just an examination of their lives and how they perceive things. And then he puts it to music.
Yeah. Rap. I mean, rhymes are it's as difficult to explain why they are rewarding as where comedy comes from. Like what makes an unexpected thing fun. I mean, that's what a rhyme is. It's like, oh, like sometimes rhymes are like you could just have like I just saw Paul. Do you know Paul Barman?
No,
he is an MC. Paul Barman. He is wonderful. Okay. He has also similar in his raps. Like he has anagrams and acronyms and acrostics and palindromes and like one like beautiful wordplay.
Okay,
like, here's whoa, I don't know why I brought him up now, but like here an example of one of his rhymes is like, my dandy voice makes even the most anti-choice granny's panties moist.
Oh my God, like, that's awesome.
Yeah, he is super duper. And so I saw him, I drove with him to a show recently. Yeah. And
where's he out of?
He is in New York City.
And his name is Paul
Barman.
Barman.
BARMAN. He's got probably, a number of albums and videos and such.
So check that out, folks, too.
Absolutely. Do check. And so, Zach, what were we talking? We're talking about rhyme and just, it's so strange why rhyme, like what does, oh yeah, I remember. So I was going to say one of his rhymes was something like, boobs, asses, faces, and then he rhymes that with went into a place and got some used glasses cases. And so like initially just delightful, like, oh, those are,
those are things nice that we all enjoy.
Yeah. Yes. Like, and boobs, asses, faces kind of go together as a thing. And the other thing, so you could have things that rhyme and mean nothing together. Like I read that Eminem growing up, like he would write a sentence and then he'd write as many things under it that rhymed with that sentence, like whether they made sense or not, just like exercising the rhyming muscles. And then so eventually you build up those muscles the same way many comedians start off by doing jokes that eventually they're ashamed of, don't care about. They're like, that's stupid. It's a dick joke. It's whatever it is. But it's what helps you hone the muscle of becoming a comedian. And then maybe later, not everybody has to then turn it inwardly or get philosophical. But, Paul F. Tompkins' first album, Impersonal. Now, many personal stories. Like Louis, originally much more absurd. Now, talking about his life and life in general. Yeah. Like, so many people, like, learn how to do the thing. And so with rhymes as well, I feel like there's rhymes that say nothing, but they're still fun. Right. Like wordplay that doesn't have any greater connection. Okay. But then there's like sometimes a rhyme or a wordplay has this greater thing and then it has even more power. Like a poem that rhymes and means something is more powerful to me than one that doesn't. Like one of my favorite wordplays, I think it was from the movie The 25th Hour, or possibly they took it from somewhere else. Okay. But it was
but it was in the movie.
It was in the movie, definitely. It was champagne for my real friends and real pain for my sham friends.
Oh, nice.
And and another Eminem one that's really great is everybody in this place will miss you if you try and make a racial issue out of my facial tissue.
Wow.
Like it's just, and it's more, the more things are added to it, the more impressive it gets. Like he has one song on his new album that has pretty much one rhyme scheme for the whole song.
Which one?
Legacy is the song.
Yeah, that's a great song.
That I just
the Marshall
learned,
Mathers.
Yeah, the Marshall
project.
Mathers LP2.
LP2.
And I learned all the words to it and just sort of got it down yesterday. There's so many things in it that are beautiful.
Right. There's at least 4 great songs on that album.
Oh, yeah.
I've been listening to them, and I was like, I want to learn Headlights. I want to learn.
Is beautiful. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's that whole thing about his mom.
He's apologizing for all the other songs that he wrote about his mom.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't even play those at concerts anymore. And
I cringe when I hear them on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rap and Rap God.
Oh, of course.
Rap God's amazing. But Legacy is so beautiful. Is that the one about when he was in high school? When he was a kid?
Yeah, it's about him growing up and discovering.
He's like
rhyming.
Somebody's eyeballing him.
Oh yeah, some cocksucker shoved me into a locker because he said that I eyeballed him.
Yeah, it's so powerful, and it's so like, well, what about those rhymes I'm making? You know,
and they're kind of giving me confidence.
Yeah, it just gives it. There's hope there, and
it's from the beginning of the first verse is just about how he had a horrible home life. You know, his dad wasn't there. He didn't know how to be friends with anybody in school. He was just afraid.
Yeah.
And then the second verse, he discovers rhyme, and the third verse is, oh, I'm the best rapper. It's just like this beautiful process of seeing, and you kind of, I mean, like, I feel like we all potentially, ideally, have that progression in our life where, of course, we're afraid.
Because when we're kids, we don't know what the hell we're doing.
And then you find something, hopefully.
Hopefully you find anything, whether it's skateboarding or
comedy, another person caring about you, whatever it is, just something, a connection to something that you're good at and care about in life. And then ideally, best case scenario, you're better than everybody else at it and you murder them.
Yes. Or you're just really good at it and happy in your work.
Yeah.
That also is nice. And
that is nice.
That is nice. And then, but what I like is, there's that other song on that album where he talks about how he wanted so much to be famous, and then now he just wants to live in Detroit.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, he's always like, I'm taking a dump at the McDonald's, and the guy's like slips a napkin.
Oh yeah.
He's like, oh good, we're out of toilet paper. I'm going to use that. And then he throws it at him and says, "You're the shit." And what I really hope is that he didn't actually do that. And then he's just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just kidding. And then he's in the Kroger's, or he's at the grocery store.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "You have crow's feet," and he rhymes the most unlikely stuff.
Oh yeah. And
it's all of that stuff is so great.
Next time you talk to Zach, I don't know if have you seen him do his Twinkie Burger song?
Yes, I have seen
which is all about that Eminem rhyming things that don't rhyme.
He sent me the album, and then I bought the album because I wanted to be supportive. And he was like, well, you have to hear this album. And so Zach Sherwin, you should go and check out Zach Sherwin, of course. Yes. And he's been on the show.
And Eminem, he has not been on the show, I don't think.
Eminem has not been on the show.
He'd be
you
a
might
great
want to
get.
check him out.
Yeah.
And but Zach Sherwin also did this thing about how Wolverine.
Oh yeah, he has a song. Circumcising Wolverine is the
right.
name, yeah.
It's that you can't circumcise Wolverine because everything regrows.
Yeah,
and
it's a metaphor to tasks that are impossible, that never end.
Oh, like the Sisyphus-y, or is it Sisyphus?
Sisyphusian, yes.
Was he
pushing
the rock?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's discussed in the song as well.
Did you ever study like Latin or anything?
I took Latin for a year in high school and a semester in college, so I know some of it. I know some things about it.
Right. You got the basics. You know how it relates to other languages.
I know why we have some of the rules in English, because people were they're like, oh, it should be like Latin. Latin's perfect. Latin's perfect because it's dead and doesn't change. They're like, oh yeah, we want to have English be like that. No, we don't want it to be dead, but that's why you can't, that's why people say don't end a sentence with a preposition, because that would never happen in Latin. Because you would always have the something after that preposition.
Where the subject was the end, if I remember correctly, or the verb.
They would do different things. Like, there technically was no necessary word order. That was a thing. There was some standard word order. Like, they'd be like, this is generally what you do.
Right.
But yeah, if there was a preposition, there would always pretty much be another noun after it.
Right.
And no splitting infinitives, which was impossible because infinitives were just one word, like they are in, French or Spanish.
Right.
So you're like, oh yeah, we don't have split infinitives because that would be tearing a word apart. Yeah. That's crazy. But then obviously to boldly go where no man has gone before, that's fine. It's a poetic thing to say in English, which means something different than to go boldly.
Yeah.
Or boldly to go. It's fine to have rules and no rules, but it makes sense to have reasons for them and then get rid of them if you don't want them.
Right, if they don't work. It's so who are your favorite authors to read?
Right now I'm loving George Saunders. Do you know George Saunders?
I do not.
Oh man,
offhand,
you should absolutely start knowing George Saunders. The first thing I read of him was The Brain Dead Megaphone, which is nonfiction essays. And the first thing is named for, should I spoil it? It's, it's not like a major spoiler point, but the meaning of The Brain Dead Megaphone is essentially like, he's like, imagine you're at a party. This is what one essay is about. And somebody's talking very loudly. And so you can't help but hear, even if it's nonsense. It doesn't matter you don't care about what they're talking about. But so whoever you're talking to, you're like, can you believe that guy talking about this stuff? And now all of a sudden you're talking about the thing he's talking about because he's so loud. So it's like, that's the media. So the media is just, they're all saying the same unimportant things. And that shapes our conversation, because they're this brain dead megaphone.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there's a thing in it where he's talking about, like, he also writes fiction, which is, I just finished the 10th of December, which is his most, I think as of now, most recent thing. Okay. He also has a very recent thing about kindness, which is like, I think, congratulations, by the way, which is a transcribed graduation speech that he gave. Oh, okay. And he's just like, the biggest regrets I have in my life are just when I just stood by while somebody was mean to somebody else. Okay. Like a little girl, he's like, I was nice to this girl that everybody else picked on, but even that, I felt like I should have done more. Like, I feel bad that I didn't, like, tell other people to not be mean to her, you know? And it's just so much kindness and also like sort of incisive, just like, there's these poignant things. Like, I don't have a lifelong partner, that somebody's dying and we care about each other and we have this history and children. Right. But in one of these essays, I'm like, oh, I understand what it is like to have, like, I want a dying husband or, something. Right. Yeah. It's just really, so it's like a lot of sci-fi stuff, kind of. I mean, his fiction often takes place in like these, like, sort of not post-apocalyptic, but just sort of like slight future places where you're like, oh, that's like, there's a story where there's drugs that you take one drug and it makes you talk better. Okay. It vocabularize. That's not what it's called, but something like that.
It would be called.
And he makes up these, fun names for people and things and just.
So his use of language is amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
and but incisive
also,
too. And
the way he's saying things is amazing and the things that he's saying are also beautiful and important.
Okay.
So it's like, like a wordplay that has meaning.
Yeah, yeah.
But a much larger word.
That sounds
opus.
Yes. And he's holding forth and it's great.
Yeah. So I love, George Saunders, absolutely. I'm also reading Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Okay. Which is like, more nonfiction, like Dan Ariely kind of social sciencey stuff. Do you know Dan Ariely?
I don't.
Oh, this guy, I love he wrote Predictably Irrational, describing human behavior. Okay. And The Honest Truth About Dishonesty. Okay. And like, he does these experiments which demonstrate, like, here's one thing that I learned from one of these books something about another book about irrationality, where, how at the end of your taxes, I think it says, sign here to say that this is all true. Right. But if by that point, if you've lied, you lied. And you're like, well, I'm just going to sign it anyway. Right. He's like, there are experiments like at some schools where they have like an honor code. If you have at the top of the test, if the top of the form, before you start, I promise that I will not lie, then people lie less. People want to think of themselves as good people. So if you make them think of themselves as good people, then they become better people. So he's like, I think they pitched that to the IRS and they're like, we can't make people promise something in advance because they haven't done it yet. So we have to say, but it would make the world it would
better. It would make the tax form a little more accurate.
So I like those. And then
that sounds great.
A lot of comics, graphic novels. Mind Management. Have you read that?
Oh, wait.
Mind MGMT.
Yeah. It's a futuristic, what?
Sci-fi mystery. That? Matt, I don't know how to say his last name. Kindt. Kint or Kint.
Okay.
Or Kind. He is, I love that guy. That Mind Management, it is really, I think like Damon Lindelof or somebody from Lost.
We were collecting that one. Okay. And it stopped.
Oh, really?
And you're like, because I don't think it finished, did it?
I mean, I have 2 complete volumes of it. Yeah, okay. There's one full story and then a second story.
That is just continuing.
And I hope there are more, but it's possible that there is only that much.
Okay, and that's fine too. But
yes, I mean, hey, look, you don't have to do it for me, but
Be nice if you wrap that up. Anything?
Yeah, please.
Right.
Did you do another stuff? Right? More Spider-Man now? Okay, I get it.
No, I get it. We all have. I love Kyle Baker so much.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that he hasn't put anything out in years has just made me sad. And then I go, well, I know he has kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's writing something that's lucrative.
I mean, there's enough people that I like that everything, there's,
I'll find something else.
And I explore new things pretty frequently. Like, if I read the back and it has like 3 or 4 quotes from either people I've heard of and like,
right,
then I'll be like, oh yeah, then I guess if Ed Brubaker likes it, then maybe I will enjoy it. I
was just thinking about Ed Brubaker. His one of his projects got optioned for a movie.
Which one?
I don't know.
Oh, great.
And he just tweeted about it, and I forgot the name of it.
That's fine.
So I thought I'd bring that up.
He's great.
He's always great. He's been on the show.
Oh,
he's been on the Dork Forest.
That's super.
That was a get. And he was so funny because when I met him, he goes, so have you read anything of mine, or did someone just tell you that I would be fun? And I said, I have these items I would like you to sign. And I've read everything you've read.
Oh yeah, I love his Iron Fist.
That Iron Fist was amazing.
It's like reading a movie. Like it's just...
that's what I mean. His Captain Winter
America,
Soldier was his Captain America, right?
Yeah, he made it happen. Yeah,
So they should make an Iron Fist with that because that Iron Fist was amazing. I could reread that at any time.
And it's so interesting because like growing up. Like talking about like when you were talking earlier about like the Guardians of the Galaxy, they were hardly in. I don't even care who's in the story as long as I like the person who's writing it. Like there's like some on Ed Brubaker's Daredevil run. Daredevil's in jail,
amazing.
And Iron Fist is like taking over for Daredevil.
Yep.
Like when people are like, "Isn't I don't like the character Daredevil." I'm like, you don't. No character means that. I mean, I like Spider-Man, but there's bad Spider-Man stories.
Yep.
Like it depends who is writing it. Like I'm really
totally. And then his indie stuff. Like right now, I'm reading Velvet.
Oh yeah.
I've
not read that yet. That's not been collected yet.
No, I think we're only at like 5.
But Criminal and Incognito.
Incognito, the superhero witness protection supervillain.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah. Brubaker, anything, I'm in.
Gotham Central. He knows what he's doing.
It turns out, not a hobby, that guy.
Oh, yeah.
So, good for him.
Yeah, not a flash in the pan.
Right. So this will drop near the end of May.
Perfect.
And you have Small Dork and
Handsome.
Thank
you. Mm-hmm. Many people have trouble saying it.
Is it? Well, mine is called This Will Make an Excellent Horcrux.
Oh, sure.
And I've had to tell the last 3 weeks, because it's been out for 3 weeks, MCs, and they're just like, if they haven't read Harry Potter, they're screwed. And then if they have, they're just like, I was like, just tell them the Horcrux in the title. Don't even worry about it. And just get me up there. It'll be fun.
Something about the important part of the prostitute.
Okay. So, but it's also going to be on Netflix, right?
Yes, it will. If you're listening to this in May 2014, the end of or beyond, yes, it is on Netflix. You can search for it. Please do, and look at it and watch it and make other people do it and rate it the high numbers. And then also you can download it on iTunes or wherever you download things.
Videos.
Audio-wise.
Oh, the audio-wise is on iTunes and Amazon probably.
And I will have physical CD copies as well.
There you go. And you could probably do previews on Pandora and Spotify.
Oh, I'm sure that
so knock yourself out.
I'm sure I'll get a few pennies from those people as well.
That bleeds off. It's all going to work out.
Yeah.
And Hang Out With Me,
which
I have done.
You've been on
twice.
A couple episodes.
And for some reason, Hang Out With Me. No,
it's very difficult because it sounds like when people will introduce me, they'll be like, "Hey, what do you want me to say?" I'm like, "Doesn't matter." Like, he's got this great podcast called "Hanging Out with this guy, Myq Kaplan." Here he is, and I'm like, because it's also weird to be like, "Hang out with me with." Myq, so I say it's like by me. I'm like the author of the podcast. Hang out with me by Myq Kaplan.
By Myq Kaplan.
Dear readers and listeners.
And so that's super fun. And then they could see you do live stand-up comedy probably from MyqKaplan.com and Facebook and Twitter.
Go to Myq Kaplan. It's Myq Kaplan, Myq Kaplan.
At Myq Kaplan.
Everywhere. And just the only thing the podcast you can get through my website, but it's also at keithandthegirl.com/hang.
Oh, excellent. So you're on their network.
Their network.
Well, good for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on the program.
I thank you for having me.
All right. Take care out there. Bye.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?